Hi, this is Dave Briner from Synergist Technologies, back with another mini tutorial on Fusion 360, and today I'm going to be looking at patterns, different kind of patterns. Now, this is a tough subject. It's not hard, most patterning, but it can get really deep, and I don't want this to go into a really extensive and long tutorial, so I'm just going to be taking more or less an overview of each type of patterning. I don't want to get too deep into this. Like I said, it could be, we could get down into really obscure individual cases, and I don't want to draw it out like that. I mean, patterning can do a lot. So there's three main types of patterning in Fusion. It's circular, rectangular, and the third one is called pattern on a path. So I like to take a look at each one of those and review a couple of the aspects of each type of patterning. So to begin with, you're going to see that I have each of them finished. This is going to be the pattern on a path. I have a circular pattern here, and then we also have a rectangular pattern. So let's go through, and I start with circular only for the fact that it's probably, I'm going to say maybe the most intuitive. I'm not going to say easiest. It is pretty straightforward. So I'm going to start right here. Now just let me back up here a little bit, and all I did was, again, I have just a disc, and I created an extrude on it. All right, and so what I want to do is I'm going to create a pattern of this little boss that's sticking up. All right, so there's a couple ways you can get to the patterning, and one is go to the create panel, come down to pattern, and you're going to see here's our three types of patterns we're going to look at today, right? Rectangular pattern, circular, and a path pattern on a path. So I like to take a look at each one of those, at least an instance of each of those. The other is, as many of you follow me, it's I go to the S key and I bring up my toolbox. I happen to have these located right here, but if I did not, I can just certainly do, just type in a hint, like I'll say circ, even just start spelling it, the first couple letters, and you're going to be offered a number of choices. So right here, circular pattern, you're going to see there's a lot of other choices up here, and each of those choices to the right have a little up arrow, and that just means I can add this to my my toolbox. If I go to circular pattern, it offers an X because it realizes that I already have it. So I always encourage everyone to utilize this. I think it's a really great, I use it all the time. It's just a great tool. So circular pattern, so it's going to come up, and it's going to ask for a number of things here, and if I look, you can see that I've got this boss. So I'm just going to leave it at faces, and I'm going to come down and I can select that face. All right, that's one of the choices. Oops, I'm sorry, I hit escape instead of, so let me bring that up again. Now the other choices you have are bodies, features, and components. Now bodies, I believe this is an individual body, so it will, I think it will allow me. Is this an individual body? All right, so I can select it that way. All right, so I can do it with faces or bodies. I don't know that it's going to allow me to select a feature. I forget, and it will. So, and this is not a component, so I can't even select component because it's not a component. So I can choose faces, bodies, or features, and that method of selection. Now I don't go to the part and try to select it because it's too many faces. So I'll just go down here in the timeline and select that. All right, and I could do the exact same thing if I just wanted to select bodies. I can. I come down and choose a selection. This one here, I'm going to have to select that body. It doesn't know which body. All right, so now the next thing, and you just start from top and go down. just start answering the questions. The next one's going to be select an axis. So as soon as I select it, you're going to see in the center I come up with my triad, and I can highlight any one of those axes, or I could certainly go up to my browser, and you can see as I hover over each selection I can select it in either place. So I'll select the Z-axis, and you're going to see that it brings out a standard 3 quantity, and let's I'm going to just move that to like 7. Alright, now the other thing, the default is for a full. It's going to pattern those equally around the 360 degrees. I can also choose an angle. Alright, so I can choose 80 degrees. Maybe I want to just put this on 270, and it'll equally space it around those degrees. And the last one is symmetrical, and then I can also choose symmetrical and also do that around an angle. All right, but I'll stay with the full. I mean, typical. It's going to be a full pattern. And the other thing is, now I can suppress, just like a lot of other functions. I can suppress individual instances. All right, and that always comes in rather handy. I can always bring them back if I change my mind, and then just click OK, and there you have it. All right, and you'll see over in the browser that it did create a new body for each one of my instances in the pattern. All right, so that's circular patterning. All right, not real difficult. It's pretty intuitive. The next one's going to be rectangular patterning, and you can see that I've got an example here. And so what I'm going to do is let me back up over this again. I'll just come back, and what I did is I just created an extrusion. All right, I created a hole. Let's go here. I just created a hole, a 1-inch hole, and it's located 1 inch up, 1 inch across, and then I just put a chamfer around the top. All right. So what I want to do is, again, I can go to my Create panel and come down to Pattern, and for this I am going to select my rectangular pattern. All right, my plate happens to be 10 by 20 inches long, and I'm up 1 inch, so I can sit there and try to figure out the math. And so for this one, I am going to choose either faces or features. All right, and I am going to select the hole and the chamfer. Now you have to select both of those features, or else you're just going to get the hole and the feature will be left and the chamfer will be left behind. So make sure you take all components. If you happen to have a rectangle there and you've got a bevel or a fillet or something like that, make sure you catch all the corners. All right, and now I can select a direction. So I'm just going to come here, and again I'm just going from top down. I'm going to select, and I can either come up here and select an axis, or I can select an edge, and you'll see that I'll get my indicator here, and I can just drag one and pull it up. Now extent, I don't know, it's okay. I typically don't use it. Extent means that you're going to place a dimension. So right now it's at 5 inches, or just say I put in here 5 inches, or say 6 inches. And what that means is center to this hole to center of that hole will be 6 inches. So that leaves me 3-inch spacing. But I really kind of prefer to enter the spacing myself. That way I have a clearer understanding of what I'm working with, at least on my side of it, I guess. So I'm going to choose a quantity of 5, and you'll see that it's starting to run up off, and my spacing is going to be, and I do the math, I want this to be 2 inches, and that will now make it equal distance from this end and this end, and 2-inch spacing. All right, so now I want the other direction, or I can either choose the other direction, click it and choose, or else I can just grab this arrow and start pulling it out. All right, so now that direction's already selected. And for this one I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. So I know that I'm going to need, with the spacing on 20 inches, I'm going to need a quantity of 7 and a spacing of 3 inches. All right, and that will then leave me equidistant on this end and this end. All right, so now like anything else, now I've got a couple over my hole here, and I don't want to put a hole, the bevel over my rectangular hole, so I know that I need to eliminate these 3 here instances in the center. All right, and I can say OK, and there I have it. So controlling the instances with the suppression is a nice option, and I can again edit that feature, or I can just turn the suppression off and it's gonna kind of take that suppression away. But if I want to, I can bring a couple back and I'll see what the result is, and you'll see that I'll get, you know, half the hole. So this works rather nice. Rectangular patterning again is also pretty self-explanatory. It works, basic operation, and easy to understand. All right, so the one that I want to talk about now is going to be this one here, and this is called pattern on path. And this one is a little more complicated. It's not quite as intuitive as I guess I would like it, but this is what we're going for. So what it's going to do, pattern on a path, is going to say, you know, I have to figure out what this spacing is going to be in between each of the holes. All right, so that's going to be my number one problem. So I got to figure out, how am I going to figure out that spacing so it's equal all the way around? And this is where the lack of intuition comes in. It just doesn't work too well with that. So I'm just going to back up here and bring my, I forget where I started. Let's start there. All right, I'll start right here. All right, and let me show you what I did. I have a sketch here, and I'm going to turn that sketch on. All right, it's up here, and I think it's this one here. So what I did is, this is the sketch, and all I did was I created a sketch. So let me edit that sketch. All right, and I just offset the outside perimeter by 1/4 inch. So I brought that in. And then what I did is I created a hole down here, a sketch for a hole. And I guess I can probably get rid of that. All I really need, maybe let me delete that and see if it's easier. I can let me see. I want to put a point there. Let's see if that's there. I'm going to put a point right there, and we'll create a hole. All right. So so the first thing I need to do is I need to find out what that perimeter is. All right. This is where you're going to have to do a little bit of math. The first time I tried this, I had a hole here, and I tried to use this outside perimeter, and the spacing just didn't come up right. So I'm going to run a measure. All right, and I am going to select this inside area. I'm just going to click on that, and you're going to see, well, it gives me the area, which I really don't care about. What I'm worried about here is this number right here. All right, 26.2832. So if I take 26 point, and I want 12 holes, that's going to leave me with 12 spaces. All right, so I'm going to take that 26.2832 and divide it by 12. All right, and when I do that, it's going to, by doing the math, it's going to come up to 2.190265, yada yada. And it depends on how accurate you want to be. Like I said, it doesn't really do the math for you, so you got to kind of be careful. So it's not, like I said, it's not quite as intuitive as you'd like, as I would like, but it's what we have to work with. So with this, I'm going to come up and let me finish this sketch. case, and because I have the case active and the cover active, it's going to place that hole through both of them. So let me go through, add the hole. I'm going to choose the point, simple hole, and I am going to go an inch deep for a 1/4 inch diameter hole. All right, and I'll say OK. All right, now this is where it's going to start getting a little. I'm going to have to turn my sketch on because I need to identify that path. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the create panel, and I'm going to pattern on path. So again, I'm just going to start from the top down, and for this I'm going to select faces, and I'll select the hole. All right, so it sees both holes, 2 objects. For the path, I'm going to select, all right, this round, the perimeter. Now I need to put in kind of what I want. So the distance I want, as I mentioned before, I take that perimeter, I divided it by 12, and I came up with 2.190265442. And it depends on how accurate you want to get. I like to try to get things a little bit accurate, so let me put 12 in here. So there's going to be 12 points in here. All right, and this is going to, I don't want extents, I want this to be spacing. All right, and I want this to be path direction, and I'm going to bring it out in this direction. All right, so things jumped around again, so I got to go back. I think this is 2.1902. I think it's 0902. 65442. All right, so now you can't see the holes that readily. I mean, they're there. You can identify the suppression check marks. If I wanted to, I could certainly suppress one of these, but this is what I want. All right, I don't want identical, I want path direction, and I'm going to say OK. Now this takes a little bit of computation time. You go through and let me turn the sketch off. I'm going to measure. So this one we know should be correct. This should be, because it's the first spacing, and it is the 2.1903. Let me check. This is the space that I'm kind of worried about, because all these I have space. These should all be the same. I want to make sure the remainder is an accurate, or as close to accurate as I can get. And again, this is 2.1903. So it's maybe not as like I said, intuitive as you'd like. Now the other option on here is the extents, and that one is a little bit more difficult to calculate. So on the extents means the beginning of the first hole, that path length to the last hole. So what you would have to do, it doesn't care about this section. It's going to go from here to here to here, all the way around, following around, and end right there. That's what would be the length of that extent. All right, and what you would have to do is calculate the perimeter divided by 12, subtract that from the perimeter. That would be the leftover extents. All right, and I can actually, even if I edit this, all right, and what that number is going to be, if I go to, because I have it all figured out here, if I go to extents now, here it is. This would be the 26.2832 minus that 2.1903. This is what I come up with. This is from this hole all the way around, ending at this hole, the last 12th hole. All right, so, and then so then it would equally space it on that length. 12 holes equally spaced over that distance. That's why I kind of like the spacing. It's not as, at least to me, not quite as useful as I find I know what my spacing is going to be. It's a little bit easier to calculate. All right, so that's it. It's not as that one particularly is not quite as self-explanatory as some of the others. You gotta think it out, maybe do a little bit of math. But I like this one because it offers a good patterning on irregular shapes. On rectangular shapes, you can do this on a path. If you have a part and then you have a sketch line that takes that on a curve, you can do that. So any path, just happens to be this one here. So again, you can have any part or feature drawn out that has a secondary sketch with another line or curve drawn out, and you can pattern that along that sketch line. So this is a nice command. It comes in very handy. I kind of like it. I find this to be a real life application, at least for the way I work. And that's it. So I hope all three of these brought a little bit of information and light into the way you work. So if you enjoy it, great. Give me a thumbs up. If you don't care for it, thumbs down. And put your comments down below. Let me know what you think, if you like it, or if you have any ideas for any other type of tutorial. So thank you for joining me. Again, my name is Dave Briner, Synergist Technologies. Have yourself a great day.